Mexico for most of her life, and when we were getting ready to start this and kind of thinking of names, and there were a lot of different options, but we thought like naming it after her was a good way to kind of honor her, and also she loved cooking for people. She loved making food, and she loved making people happy with food. And I think that's all we wanted to do here was make food and make people happy. So she was a really good kind of model for that. I lived all over. I was born in Romania, but my folks are American, my parents, and we moved to California, Massachusetts, we lived in Boston, Honolulu, and then so over in Hawaii. From Hawaii we moved to Columbia, Missouri, and lived there for a while. In Kansas City, me and my wife went from Kansas City to Ohio for a little bit, came back to Kansas City when we were having kids. University of Missouri Columbia, just down the road, and my major was English Lit, just because I had to think of something. Like I went 2 or 3 years and I didn't have a major. I didn't want to settle on anything, like putting all your eggs in one basket sort of deal if you don't know what you're doing. But it was time to choose, so I had most of my classes in kind of like literature and history and world history, some art history, which I really loved, and I took a couple of botany classes that I really liked, but I'm not great at science. But I love plants, and so I think like horticulture or like landscape design would have been really fun to go into. And so yeah, I loved taking classes and learning things, but I didn't particularly like getting grades and having to have a degree. You know what I mean? So the learning was a lot of fun. That was the best part for me. Going to the library. University of Missouri has a great library, so just going in there and just sitting for hours and reading books, and you can just go through the shelves and just find a different, it's just topic by topic. You never know what's going to be up there. That was a lot of fun for me. I wanted to be an illustrator or a newspaper cartoonist, just from the moment I was probably 10 or 11, all the way up until basically halfway through college, because I was starting to figure out that illustration's really hard, and there's so many people out there doing it. It's highly competitive, and it was the job that was starting to get cut from all newspapers, all magazines. They were spending less and less money on illustration and cartooning, and so basically it's a lot more people competing over a smaller slice of the pie. And so it was something I loved doing, but I didn't love it enough to struggle that hard for potentially nothing. So that's why I decided to go a different way, and I started. I just worked in food places basically, because if you have an English literature degree and you don't want to teach, then that's about it's not worth much. So I worked in kitchens, and I wish I'd known before I started college that culinary school was a possibility. It never, nobody in my family is chefs or involved in food or anything. They're good home cooks, but if I had known that that was an option, I might have gone that way, learned a lot more, and gotten started earlier on it. But as it was, I kind of took a side route in. This was a good question. It was hard to think of. I most like having dinner with my wife and kids, because a lot of times I have to work at night, and so I'm kind of taken away from them. And so it's a lot of fun when I can just sit with them and have a meal. But I think through history, there's a comedian named Patton Oswalt who, did you see the movie Ratatouille? It's like a little rat and he cooks.
Yeah.
So it's like he did the voice of Ratatouille, and he loves food, and he's really funny.
Yeah.
And so I thought, him, he would be good. And then I thought some Roman emperor or like a an Egyptian pharaoh or something, because they had the biggest meals, and like the food would have been crazy. And then also I would want my wife there because she's way better at just dinner conversation. She gets people to open up really well, so she could have had them talking, and then it would have been good food, good conversation. Kansas City, Missouri. It's right here. 2016. The opening date of the ice cream parlor was March 25th of 2016. But I mean, I set up the LLC and got all the official kind of registry stuff done in 2015. So I think technically it's probably September of 2015 or something. I like to approach things not from a business perspective, but from a more creative, just a more creative perspective. So, sometimes there will be decisions that if you were a business person, you wouldn't make it, or you might not even think of it. So, like, just as an example, last year I wanted to do a morel mushroom ice cream, and morels, are like hard to find, really expensive. And basically it took about $300 worth of morels to make one batch of ice cream. And so, if you were just looking at the numbers, you'd say, oh, well, that's stupid, I'm not going to do that. But, we did it. It was a lot of fun, and it created a stir, online. And people were coming in to try it, and it was a big deal. So, being able to do that created a lot of, added value that most people might not see. And by the same token, like, we give away a lot. We give away a lot of ice cream. At the end of the year, we do a day right before Christmas where just all the ice cream's free. So, we just say scoops are free. At 11 a.m. on social media, we just put it out. People come in all day long, and we just give them ice cream. Nobody would do that because we're giving away probably like $10,000 to $15,000 worth of product in one day. And it's kind of crazy. But as a result, people come in who have never came in, and they're now getting a chance to try it. They're having a good time, and it's something that no business does anywhere. I've never heard of a business just having a day where everything's free, but it was a thought that popped in my head, and I was like, oh, let's do this. So it's a lot of fun. You have to make sure that it makes sense business-wise. If you know that you're in trouble and you can't afford to give that away, then you probably shouldn't. But if you plan for it, make sure it's going to work, then I think it's great to do things like that. Just doing things differently. Like I know a lot of people who went to business school, and I never took one business class, but there's a lot of rules that you learn, and lots of times the rules aren't there for any reason at all, other than maybe in one case somebody had this idea, and so then it became a rule. So I like to say, like, just why can't we do this? Why can't we do X? Why can't we do Y? Why can't we make barbecue ice cream? Like, why can't barbecue be ice cream? Why can't we give everything away for a day? So right out of college, didn't know what to do, and I just had an English lit degree, but didn't want to work in any field related to that. It was just what I enjoyed, and so I started working at this little ice cream parlor in Columbia, Missouri called Sparky's, and they're really great. They they invent things, they make it one day, serve it the next. You never know what you're going to find in there, and it's a really fun atmosphere. And it's unlike a business. I think people get tired of businesses, like something if it just looks like a business. And so I think it was really great, and that experience stuck in my head because I was running the shop, and so I saw, oh, this is how you would do all of these things. Like all the parts of the puzzle were coming together in my mind, and it was like 8 or 9 years between working at Sparky's and opening this place. So most ideas that I would have don't stick around that long, but it was I think it struck me as a good idea because it just had, it never left. And so something we just kept on pursuing. And I worked at other ice cream companies. Then I really loved baking and bread specifically. And it was always it was never a thing that I thought about, except that it was always in my head. And so I started learning about baking and how to make bread and, sourdough cultures and artisan kind of French bread, like really classic techniques. And so I started working in that direction and got on jobs at a lot of bakeries. And so here I can pull together the bakery stuff, the ice cream stuff, the illustration, the creative things, and it just all comes together. It was just an incredible amount of work in the first 2 years, just an insane level of work. And you have to be able to do that, and then you have to have a partner who's going to help you out with that. Like a lot of people I know have small businesses like this. Maybe their partner will be working in there with them, or they will have some other a co-owner that is also doing a lot of the work. And I didn't have that, but my wife is able to do a lot of great things on the side, and she's a better graphic designer than I am even. So she was able to execute the logo and do a lot of the really fine, like the labels, the stuff that requires a really good kind of Photoshop and Adobe skills. She does all that. But other than that, she was able to do a lot of stuff in the house and with our kids and all that stuff while I had to pour way too much time into this. So that plus I think supporting just having really good people and paying them more than most places pay and giving them freedom to just work and define their own kind of systems and kind of intensity of work almost, which I think people appreciate, and that keeps people around. I know a lot of places, especially a lot of places that just open up, they go through a lot of turnover. And so some of the places that opened up at the same time we did have already been through staff rotations like 3 or 4 times. And there's maybe not a lot of people originally, but we've got the same 4 people that we started with 2 years ago. And they still are here, and they'll be here as long as they want to be, basically. So that's pretty nice. We had 4 people in addition to me, and I was hiring, but we had no idea how busy it was going to be. It was early spring, and so the weather wasn't super nice yet, and nobody can expect to be super busy right out of the gate. A lot of people are kind of too over optimistic, and then all of a sudden it's not as busy as I think it's going to be. But we were really, really busy from the get-go, and so I just kept on hiring. And then last summer, which was our second summer, we had 30-something people, and it's a lot of part-timers. So I think there's maybe 5 full-time total. But yeah. So now with the winter, we're closer to 22 or something, but we're going to need to be hired pretty quick. So that's basically we went from 4 to 20-something in a matter of months. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah, that is.
The beginning was the hardest part because the whole thing only exists in your head, and you kind of know how every detail should be, but everybody's starting from scratch. Everybody's starting at 0, and so everybody that worked up front and everybody else, everything was new. Whereas now it's really great because I have people who've been here 2 years. They can really help the people who have been here 2 weeks, and the systems work better. But getting the place running really well while everybody is just learning everything is really tough. And then finding the right people and just getting them in the places where they need to be, and having them know what you expect of them without being overbearing or just obnoxious or a bad boss is really important too, because I think we get a lot of really high marks for customer service online and in feedback and stuff, and it's because everybody up there is happy to be here. They want to be here, and they like what they're doing while they're here, and they don't feel, much stress from above. I mean, I tell them what they need to be doing. If they're not doing something, I let them know, but it's not in a like stressful or bad way. And so that people feel that subconsciously. They come into a place and you can feel when people are happy or when they're not happy or when they're just clocking in. They're just showing up for pay. And I think people feel that that's not the case. Just hiring in the right way and just keeping people around. Like if I had good people, I would just hire their friends almost no questions asked. And lots of times I'll schedule them together. So it's a person and this person. Like my first person that I hired was amazing, and she's really great. She started when she was 16, but she was like more mature than most of the like 25-year-olds that I know. And she had a really good friend, and so I was like, oh, okay, yeah, let's have that person too. And they're still both here. I schedule them together a lot, and they've known each other since they were kids, so they're working together with their childhood friend in a place they enjoy, and it just makes a huge difference. It's really nice. So that's what I think when people see that, and then also, I mean, just being around all the time, especially in that first year and a half, was really important because you're just able to watch everything, show how it is instead of just checking in, checking out, expecting people to keep it up to a level. We had planned on doing it a bunch of different ways. So, like if we only had, like X amount, we knew that we could do a small thing. A lot of places will do that, like they'll say like, oh, I only have this much, I'll start with a food truck. Food truck's cheaper than a brick and mortar. Or even, a cart. Or if they can't even do that, there's shared kitchens all over the place where you can go and you just pay a tiny bit of rent just on a kitchen. You can make your product, and then you do pop-ups in various places. So you can always do it at any different size. So we just planned on like, if we have this much, we'll do this. If we have this much, we'll do this. If we have this much, we'll do this. And we got lucky right at the end when we were kind of getting together private loans that we had enough to do like a decent sized brick and mortar. And so that's what we did. It was still really tight because we couldn't go over the budget, and we did not know how much we were going to make when we initially started. So you have to plan a little buffer in to be able to, like pay rent, pay people for 3 months, 6 months, however long it takes before you start making money. And in order to help that, I got all used equipment. Just about everything was used. We built the counters ourselves, the tables, all the work interior here that we did was just all us. And so that really saves you a lot of money because we could have spent easily 3 or 4 times as much if we'd done like new equipment. But because I knew what we needed and I knew where to get it, we were able to spend way less, which makes a huge, huge difference. Because people tend to waste money and then get kind of over optimistic. So we kind of knew where our baselines were because I had been working in small food businesses for like 8 or 9 years, basically. For the first, there were about 5 or 6 months before we were open, and I was doing, at least probably 60 plus hours a week, if not more, in here, building tables, getting equipment, getting shipments. Some of the fridges came in damaged because they were used, and then so I had to fight with the shipping companies, and then I had to fight with the original seller, and then, it was like hitches all along the way, and so you have to deal with those. So that was even before opening, and I was also working at a bakery at the time, so like that was on top of that. When we opened, then no joke, I was doing 7 days a week, like 12 to 15 hours a day, just period. I was doing that every single day, no breaks, just keeping the place running. And then that was the whole first year, and then the second year, that's what I was doing for about four or 5 months or so. We also launched a truck in the second year. So we have an ice cream truck that we run out of the parlor, and that was basically like a second shop, except one that you can close down if you need to and stop it. But then the truck was really popular, so it was getting booked every single day. Nobody else could drive it, so I was on it all the time. And so yeah, basically it was just that's you can't ask anybody to do that except for you.
Yeah.
Or if you have a partner, then they do it, but that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of hours.
Yeah.
Well, I think like what you're doing, for instance, is really good. Like you just, you go and ask, and then you can, everybody's reachable in some way. You send emails, you do anything. There are a lot of business groups, some of them like sponsored by the city. So the city has an organization called BizCare that deals with small businesses and helping people grow into entrepreneurship, or what they need to do, or helping them through a lot of the city bureaucracy that is there. So there are official organizations, and then I think there are small business organizations, and then depending on who you are, like sometimes there are even sort of just different interest groups. So that's I think there are a lot of organizations out there. I think the main thing is just like looking for them, because so many people don't take the time to like research or don't know how to research the right way, and it really is just about getting out there and looking. That's half the battle, I think. First step is just having an idea, and like thankfully I got that from working in a small ice cream parlor and like seeing that, I'm like, oh, this is how you do something that people love. And so that's the first step is just a little spark, but then you really have to keep feeding that fire, and the way you do that is just by learning and growing, and I'm really glad glad we only had the opportunity to do it like 10 years after being in that little place, because I learned so much in that time that I didn't know then, and on every level of like people and food and paperwork and whatever, and then also being at the point where I was having a family instead of just being a guy in my 20s, really supplied a lot of motivation to So, but it all comes from that first little spark, I think. And then also, having the willpower to stick with it, because there are lots of times where it'll feel hopeless, and like, you'll think like, how do I keep going exactly, and you just have to just keep on going, every new day, every new problem, and eventually, it will work, but you're the one that has to make it work. So that's kind of the hardest thing to kind of really come to grips with, I think. I think basically everything I just said is just have that idea, have the passion to keep at it, keep at that idea, but also one thing a lot of people don't consider, I see a lot of food businesses, or just businesses in general, that like they go under, and it's really, really sad, because I know how much hard work and like stress and sweat goes into building them, and to have them go away would be really crushing. I mean, it's like, it would be almost like losing a child or something. I mean, obviously not as tragic, but and so I think the main thing that they're not considering is how is what you're doing useful to anybody. Like doing something for other people, or why are people going to want this? And so, we tried to make the dining room, the food, the experience, everything as good as it possibly could be, so that people could just come in. It's easy, and it's something that they could want and enjoy. And a lot of places, I think they either ask too much of the customer, or they're confusing and they don't realize it. And so I think, it's like, so I think that the main advice for people starting out is just, have the passion to see it through, and think of how it can be a use to other people. Because if it's not, like, if nobody wants it, then you're done. That's it. I think the same thing. I think also one thing that I kept on getting into was I was really bad at like reading, like taking cues from people above me in like corporate situations. I think some people are really good at that, and it was just a skill that I didn't have, and I wish I had, because there were a lot of times where like I thought that I was doing a great job, but the person above me, who, like, it's my job to make them happy, they did not think that. And so, if I had known that, I could have adjusted. And so, sometimes it comes from bad communication from the top, sometimes it's from the bottom up. But I think, just, having a clear head, knowing what you need to do, and again, like being useful to other people. Because I think then the best working situations I had was when I was very useful to other people, and they appreciated it, and I enjoyed that role. And so I would keep doing that. So I think that was a big thing to learn. And yeah, some of these things are just, but it's different for everybody too. I think everybody has a different sort of, like, I guess so. Knowing your strengths and weaknesses is important. Like, if you know where you're good and where you're bad, then you can adjust. Like if I know I stink at talking to people, I'll hire a bunch of people who are really good at it, and then they'll cover that. Or like if I know I can't be back here that much, then get some good kitchen people. I mean, we're constantly growing. We're looking to add another shop at some point, in which case we'll basically have to double the staff. I need people for the truck, because that's a pretty intense. But also really, like, it's very lucrative. Like, the people that work on the truck get crazy tips, so that's kind of nice. But I need people in the shop up front. I definitely need people back in the kitchen, and that's more of a skilled job. So like you gotta have a little bit of a food background, so baking helps. But yeah, I'm always on the lookout. And yeah, it's there are a lot of great people out there. So connecting with them is the kind of toughest part. Knowing where to find them, and trying to get them in. And so I've tried to keep the pay really competitive, and the tips, because the customers have such a good experience, the tips are amazing. And we're getting healthcare going, so there will be benefits and that kind of stuff. So yeah, always looking for. Social media was the main communication point, period, other than coming into a shop. We did zero advertising. I know a lot of places that, especially places when they're starting out, can pay a lot of money for marketing consultants or just marketing companies. And I mean, we're talking 10, 20, 30,000, like right there. And you just hand it over, and then they get you in the newspapers, or they do your social media for you. But we did everything ourselves, and just Facebook and Instagram, and that was it. And we really built that up, and it's very personable, because we just treat it kind of like, instead of treating it like a business account where people are like, it's 50% off on Thursday, come down at happy hour or whatever, and it's kind of boring. We try to think, all right, like, it's a person. It's not a business, it's a person. What is this person saying? What do they want people to know? How do they interact with people? And so that's what we do. So we just post fun stuff that we think looks very good, new things that we've made that we really like, that kind of thing. So The social media was like crucial. And if we had done this 15 years ago, we would have had to do a lot of advertising, and I don't even know how, like reaching people back then, you know. But now it's just so immediate. You can just do it, and if you're good at it, people love it. So that's been really nice. We're at Betty Ray's, just no underscores or anything. Just at Betty Ray's on Instagram, and then it's Facebook/Betty Ray's Ice Cream. We got Betty Ray's on Twitter, but I haven't used Twitter at all. It just didn't seem like. It seemed like something you'd spend a lot of time on and not get that much back from it, if you know what I mean. And then we thought about doing Snapchat, but then Instagram was doing the stories, so it was kind of like that balanced that out. So if something new came along that seemed very beneficial to a business, then it would be good. But I think for the most part, Facebook and Instagram are the most effective at the moment. That was one I couldn't think of a quote really. I just find myself thinking, let's do this. That's all but no, I don't really have like a quote or motto. I guess there's some version of something I read a long time ago where, if you're going to do something, you might as well do it right. There's actually one that does stick in my head that's kind of, that is, it's just talking about people, and it's, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And you can tell that when you watch people work, if it's a person who puts a lot of care, they're going to put a care into every little thing they do, whether if you're just a person on a table, or if you're making a meal, or if you're, handling a register. And so I think it's, how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Okay.